Hi there, Dr. Luke Gordon here to announce the release of my second book in my memoir series, and it's called A Fish Rots from the Head Down, Exposing HPCSA Corruption. Now, in the first chapter of the book, I go into some detail about the corruption at the HPCSA, and in particular, a story about the recent CEO named Dr. David Motou and his shenanigans, with him being appointed as the CEO, the leader, head of organization, despite there being a slew of criminal charges against him. And you can read about the details of that story in my book. I also go into the arbitrary and variable sentences for unprofessional conduct with doctors and dentists at the HPCSA. I cover 3 astonishing stories about doctors and their despicable acts of unprofessional conduct and shockingly light sentences. The first is about a bogus gynecologist by the name of Dr. Anirudra, who practiced for years as a gynecologist whilst he was only registered as a general practitioner. He failed his specialist examinations, but nevertheless opened a gynecology practice now. The stories you read about are hair-raising, and as I speculate towards the end of the book, I believe that he, Dr. Anirudra, or Dr. Ramdan as he was then known as, had an inside line with the authorities at the HPCSA, the Health Professions Council of South Africa, to ensure that he wasn't scrapped from the role and that in all likelihood a few palms were greased, if you get my drift. I then cover the interesting story of Dr. Gregory Hough, who is a specialist endocrinologist in Port Elizabeth. And he was charged with multiple cases of sexual assault and indeed even rape. I think 8 charges of rape with the cops. Inexplicably, despite his diabolical violation of the Hippocratic Oath through the raping and sexually assaulting of his patients, he gets off with an effective 6 months holiday. I then go into some detail describing one of the main bad actors in my story, the story of Dr. Luke Gordon, and that is that of Dr. Leslie Berkowitz. Now, he's hailed and revered by his peers, despite the fact that he is deeply hated, loathed, and despised by those very same peers. As you will see, I had the misfortune of inadvertently crossing swords with him with dire consequences. The horrifying reality is that Dr. Leslie Berkowitz is a full-blown psychopath, a notion that I'll reinforce as my story unfolds and in future books. You'll also become acquainted with the second bad actor in my story, and that is Gary Austin Attorneys Incorporated. His malice and vindictiveness and evil know no depths. I then tell an interesting case where a Jewish lady came to see me for a multitude of procedures. Now, I missed a very important aspect of her history, which you can read about in the book. But she was completely bald as a result of her condition, and she was told before the operation not to wear her wig. And despite multiple entreaties from both my staff and I, she deliberately violated our instructions not to wear her dirty, filthy, stinking, reeking wig and developed catastrophic complications. Now, you can read the whole story in the book here. And that's when after this story, I encountered the grassroots level corruption at the Health Professions Council of South Africa, because the Jewish couple went and complained at the HPCSA, and I crossed paths with a corrupt prosecutor by the name of Gershon Mosiani. Now, that story unfolds is fascinating, and unfortunately the culmination of the story just reinforces the notion that the HPCSA is irrevocably corrupt and will continue to wreak havoc in the medical profession in South Africa. Now, during the course of the book, I cover a story about a Lebanese couple that came to see me for cosmetic surgery. Now, what happened was they clashed with one of my members of staff and ended running up to the then ombudsman of the Association of Plastic Surgeons of South Africa, who happened to be Dr. Leslie Berkowitz. And this is where the altercation between Dr. Leslie Berkowitz and I happened. And this story forms the central theme of the whole series. Everything is a fallout of that altercation. Well, I hope you get a chance to get a hold of a copy of my book. It's available on Amazon.com or Amazon.uk if you need a paperback there, but the Kindle version is available there, and on Audible.com if you would like to listen to the Audible book. If you're based in South Africa, you can get hold of me via the email on your screen, and I'll tell you how to get a copy of the paperback in South Africa. I can send it to you. I'll be happy to send it to you. Dr. Luke Gordon here, signing off. And please, as usual, like the video and subscribe to the channel so I can continue to make more videos like this.